Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the CCA Living Room. I'm Jason Silverman, the Cinematheque Director here at the CCA. We missed you all. We're glad you're all tuning into these programs. I counted them up, done 24. This is program number 24 from the cinema department at the CCA. We've also done arts programs, poetry readings, etc. And we're really grateful to be able to connect with all of our beloved patrons and keep the sense of community strong during this global pandemic. We have all kinds of great programs coming up. Check our website because my brain isn't keeping dates and times together. So one of the wonderful things about working in New Mexico is the New Mexico film industry, which there's great films being made. There's an incredible crew here. The film office is one of the best in the country. Plus, we've got so much to look at and marvel at, the skies, the landscapes. And so we were very excited when the opportunity to celebrate Short History of the Long Road came about. It's really a lovely, lovely film. And you know, it looks and feels like New Mexico. And we're very grateful to have one of our key partners, Lizette Paisner, here. Lizette is a trooper because she just had her first child 3 weeks ago, but she really wanted to celebrate this film, which won an award at the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival last year. And we're very grateful to have her here. Please welcome Lizette.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jason. So I'm really excited to be hosting this Q&A, and I'd like to introduce first Kennedy, Simon Kennedy, sorry,
Ani Simon Kennedy.
the writer, and Simon Kennedy, the writer and director of this beautiful film, and Maggie Siff, who plays the Cheryl, the reluctant mother, and you also know from Showtime's Billions, and as well as her role on Sons of Anarchy and Mad Men. So thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for making New Mexico look so beautiful. I mean, I think that's kind of, I'll start off with that question is, how was your experience filming in New Mexico? And I mean, the cinematography that you caught there, that Caitlin caught there was just absolutely phenomenal. So if you can kind of speak on that a little bit, that would be wonderful.
We're having some connection issues. Thank you so much, Kaylin Yatsko, who is the cinematographer of the movie and one of the producers, is phenomenal. She's shot everything I've ever directed since I became a director 8 years ago, and we have a production company together in New York called Bicephaly Pictures. And yeah, New Mexico was an incredible place to shoot. It was definitely, the best crew I've ever worked with, just hands down. Everyone was so dedicated and so, just went above and beyond the call of duty. And being able to shoot there was a really special experience. And be able to come back actually for the film festival ended up being a really wonderful homecoming, and ended up sort of doubling as our cast and crew screening, which was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite things about the film festival is that we really get to welcome home a lot of these films that were shot here. And I mean, last year yours was really the shining star of the New Mexico made films. And I mean, it was a really special screening. So we were really lucky to have it at the festival. And I hope you'll bring your next film too.
Yeah,
So
I hope we all get to be back on set one day soon.
Hopefully. Well, I guess that kind of speaks to my next question, where I think in this time of social isolation, your film really kind of touches on that a lot. The characters are really isolated, and kind of it speaks to this time, and where we're all self-isolated or quarantined. So kind of how was it drawing that out in your characters, this kind of idea of being alone, but also part of a bigger community, as she finds in the end.
I think that was something that came about a lot. Well, it's sort of both in the writing process, which was sort of a 4-year process for me, and then in the directing too. It happened kind of on 2 levels. I think on one hand, when I was writing the story and discovering and researching this world of van dwelling, and meeting with different people living out of their vans, it was a really incredible experience to see sort of, no 2 people are living in their vans for the same reasons or in the same way. And there's sort of as many people who are kind of living off the grid as a way to be very isolated from society, as people who actually kind of have embraced this nomadic lifestyle because there's such a community, and it's a really kind of tight-knit world, and there is actually a lot of connection there. And so I think all of that ended up weaving its way into the script. And then when we were making it, it was a 20-day shoot, but we had a month of pre-production beforehand, but we were all living together. We found this sort of like off-campus college housing complex where we rented a couple different units, and so we were all living together in this very communal way, in the 4 weeks leading up to the shoot. And so we and then, I mean, every film shoot in a lot of ways, feels like, you're kind of building a family. But in particular, because we were all living on top of each other for this movie, especially, I think it innately fed into the story and into, people's relationships. And yeah, we all just developed very strong ties.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of the independent film is once this is over, the quarantine, you got you're able to quarantine together and kind of create that family. So it's kind of hopefully, I think that independent films will kind of come back sooner and stronger than Hollywood films, just for that aspect, because that's really how independent film are made anyway.
Definitely. And I think there is a lot of, indie film technique that I think is going to end up getting absorbed by a lot of bigger productions, just because it's the only way to make it safe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so I think the van becomes kind of a character in the film itself. So kind of, can you talk a little bit about the van, why you chose that particular one, and
yes,
kind of
our star.
What kind of brought you to that?
So the van was sourced by our friend Ryan, who is someone I met, who I reached out to when I was writing the script. And he is kind of like the van guru. And him and his wife raised their 2 kids, traveling in a van. And he started a van gathering that very much inspired the end of the movie. It's called Descend on Bend. And I got to go while I was writing and just seeing, hundreds of vans gathered together really made me realize just the breadth of this community. And Ryan is just one of the best humans in the world, that he was totally game, was so insightful when I was writing the script. And then as I was writing, I kept picking his brain, and then he just totally dove in and found our van, or actually owned the van, sold it to this wonderful couple, Liz and Caleb, and then sold it to them on the condition that whenever we shot this movie, he would need it back for the shoot. And then that day came, and he drove it from Seattle to New Mexico with his 5-year-old Nellie, who sort of became the unofficial mascot of the whole shoot, and was there every day on set as sort of our van consultant / mechanic / just all hands on deck. So yeah, all props to Ryan for the van, and these vans do, notoriously break down, but she made it through the whole shoot, all the the whole travel, the entire 20-day shoot, and then all the way back, which is like a total Westphalia miracle. So we were sort of holding our breath every day that the van was playing, and like, this is the day it's gonna give up on us, and it never did.
That's amazing. Yeah, because those vans, they're not like the most trustworthy, but I think that there's something really special about them. We have a question from the audience, from Bob Tomlinson, and it's, who did the location scouting for the film?
So we had the locations kind of happened in several stages, because we originally went there so it sort of happened in 3 phases, I guess. When I was writing the script, I ended up living out of a car for a couple weeks, drove from Arkansas to California, ended up driving through New Mexico, and I had never been there, completely fell in love with it, and was very much kind of like, it just felt like a really perfect setting for the story. Happened to pop into a couple different places that then ended up being a part of the shoot. And then we went back with Kaylin, who's the cinematographer of the movie, and Kishori, the producer, and Ann Lerner, who was the head of the film commission at the time, took us around. And that was sort of like an informal, initial scout, if you will. And then on the shoot in pre-production, we were working with Bobby DeRock, who took us around. It was great. And then for the actual shoot, we worked with Nathan Bancroft, who was excellent, and truly, like, every, like, the wackiest request, he would be able to find it. And there were literally locations that I had written in the script. I was like, well, this probably won't exist, but like some version of this. Like, for instance, that sort of tunnel where Nola and Blue, walk through and sit down and have their chat. And it's it's one scene, it's one location, and kind of pictured this being able to walk through some sort of, kind of like industrial landscape that was still part of nature. And I was picturing this tunnel, totally thinking this was like gonna have to change to something more in that world. And Nathan just found it, like, he just like looked into my brain and was like, here it is. So there were a couple of moments like that where, and we had, 70 plus locations. So yeah, Nathan Bancroft, always and forever.
So, what was your inspiration to write this story? I know probably your friend that had the van helped a little bit, or kind of, if you can kind of let us know what kind of brought you to write this such a soul-searching and deep story about this young woman.
Sure. Yeah, it came from a couple different places. My first film was a movie called Days of Grey that came out in 2013. That's an Icelandic post-apocalyptic movie, very, very different. And I was just coming off of the festival circuit of that movie and really wanted to write something that was sort of like a sort of, like your classic indie coming of age drama. And I've always loved road trip movies. I've always loved, you know, taking road trips, watching them. And so that was kind of my initial spark. And also wanted to explore grief in a way that I had experienced personally, but hadn't really seen reflected, like honestly on screen. Like, I think there's something about losing someone very suddenly without any warning that really turns your world upside down in a way that I think in a lot of movies, you know, there's someone's like coughing blood into the handkerchief, and there's, you know, the writings on the wall, and there's a lot of like managing the audience. And I wanted to see what it would feel like to make a movie where the rug is kind of pulled out from under the character, so in this case Nola, and the audience as well, where, you know, hopefully if you don't know anything about short history, you start watching the movie thinking it's going to be a father-daughter road trip movie, and then it's not that. So that was something that was on my mind when I was writing it. And then it, you know, different in learning about Vanderline, I was like, oh, this would be the perfect setting for them to have this very unique kind of father and daughter relationship. And then, you know, the search for a mother was also something that, you know, I think our society still doesn't, the idea of a woman who doesn't want to be a mother is still not something that's that is sort of automatically pegged as like a bad mom, in a way that we sort of are much more forgiving of absent fathers. And so that was also something that I was interested in exploring. So there was a lot of different, you know, bits and pieces that ended up becoming a part of, you know, this larger story.
So this is from the audience. It's from Michelle Finnerty, and it's for Maggie. What drew you to the character for this film? And she says she loved you on Sons of Anarchy and now on Billions.
Can you hear me all right? Is everything
Yeah.
okay technically? Sorry about that. I'm having some issues. I thought the script was really beautiful and intimate, and it's kind of a hard question to answer because the role that I accepted ended up being very different from the role we actually filmed and created together. So I went in with one idea, which was that it would be really interesting to play this like down at heel, alcoholic, terrible mother, because I was like, I haven't done that before, and it was well written. And then as we sort of got closer to filming it, Ani was sort of like, I'm not interested in that. I want to do something totally different. And we had to figure out what that was, and that became its own adventure, but really, really interesting and like kind of gratifying. So I accepted it sort of thinking it was one thing, but it ended up being something totally different.
And that was actually something, just speaking to the locations question earlier, a lot of that came from in pre-production, in searching for, we were looking for Cheryl's diner and especially for her apartment. And just not everything that we were looking at just didn't fit really what I had written. And then as I kept thinking about it and kind of picturing, and obviously Maggie had been cast in the role, and sort of seeing the locations that were in front of us, is like, okay, how can this morph and how could this evolve? And Maggie was just so, I mean, you were so game to just be like, all right, let's take this apart and put it back together. And that was definitely like one of the most like special experiences of feeling like a true collaboration in a way that was just so fun to play with.
Yeah, I feel like when you do these films, you know, it's like everybody's there for the love of it, and you know, and we were in such a special place. And I feel sometimes like the limitations that you're given then become these creative opportunities. And Ani, I feel like you were really good at turning every conundrum into like an interesting choice. And I think that's the beauty of making a movie like this in a place like this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there was something about just like this moving target of like, this is what we have at our disposal. Like, this is the time. This is like, you know, these are the resources. And so, I mean, in a way, there was almost like something like documentary-esque about it, where we were just like, you know, this is what we're working with, and how do you kind of stay like flexible, because you know, and also, I mean, a lot of it came from, you know, I'd been writing the script for 4 years while we were trying to get it financed and get it cast, and so there, it's almost like having like a song stuck in your head. Like, there is something where it's like you just have such a clear idea because you have to be able to picture it, and we had a lot of sort of false starts of, you know, feeling like, okay, now we're gonna go, this is it, and then it, you know, sort of having to go back to the drawing room because we didn't have enough money, or, you know, things fell apart. Like, originally we were set to shoot in Louisiana. Like, there was a lot of different things that kept changing, and then there was something about actually finally being there with all the players and being like, okay, you know, these are the actual ingredients that we're going to make this cake with. So let's do it. And, you know, and there's always going to be some improvisation in there. Less baking, more cooking, I guess. More of like a stew.
And Maggie, if while we have you at, how was your experience shooting in New Mexico, and kind of how was that for you?
Oh, I loved it. My I have family there. My in-laws live in Santa Fe, so I love the area, and it was just so great to be in that atmosphere, and the, you know, the desert landscape and the light, and, you know, you really feel like it's interesting to play a character who lives in such a different kind of landscape than the one you as a person are used to, because I'm from New York City, and you know, so I don't know, for me, I definitely had an experience of like the all of the characters, but, you know, mine, whatever, that, but I felt it in the film too. There's sort of like this reflecting, like the characters are all sort of reflecting the landscape in different ways. And, you know, I don't know, I thought it was very evocative and very moody, but not in ways that I personally am used to, like aesthetically or sensorially or sensually or something. It was really lovely.
And how did it feel kind of to play that character of the reluctant mother? You know, you can tell that she has a feeling where she wants to connect with her daughter, but there's just something in her that can't. So kind of how did you kind of channel that?
Well, I feel like it was really enjoyable to sort of play around in the like, you know, I feel like what I set out to do was to sort of give Ani a lot of choices in terms of how warm she could be in moments, how cold she could be in moments, and just sort of like playing around with the parameters of how much or how little she could open herself to this person, and how much or how little pain it caused her moment to moment. And I think what we found was that it was just really complicated, and that the character could sort of turn on a dime, you know, in terms of like, but in really subtle ways, feeling really open and like wanting to let this person in, and then feeling like, no, you know what, no, and you know, like for me, and I think as Ani and I were talking about it, it was a lot of like really deeply imagining like what the history was between those two characters. You know, like what was this girl's origin story, and what was that marriage or relationship that she came out of. And you know, I think that something that people in those days, I guess at the time that Nola would have been born especially, there wasn't a lot of conversation about postpartum depression, and there wasn't a lot of resources for women like Cheryl. And you know, that was definitely part of the narrative that we imagined, that I imagined for her. You know, and then like that in conjunction with a character who's really just like moving ahead with her life, and you know, sort of fiercely independent and coming out of a certain amount of trauma. You know, it was really, really interesting to think about and to try to construct a believable character. It's really different from myself. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and we're very close. But you know, I had a lot of sympathy for Cheryl, and a lot of sympathy for Nola too.
Yeah, your chemistry was. Oh, I'm sorry, Maggie.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said your chemistry with Sabrina was really wonderful. During your scenes, you could really kind of feel the struggle in the film. But I didn't. There was a glitch, so I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you didn't. You didn't cut me off. Yeah, I mean, Sabrina is like she's such a wide open person, and especially in that film. I mean, not as a person, but as an actress, and that character is just like so vulnerable and so open. And to think about like this woman or this mother who's, you know, really protected and really carved out this space for herself in the world with a very strong hand, to suddenly encounter this young woman who's like so open and so full of need and want and love. And you know, she was wonderful to play off of, and to sort of to experience encountering like somebody who's that lost and open and grief stricken and all of that.
And we have an audience question from Laura Holmes, and she said, "Where did you film in New Mexico? It looked like there were a number of different places." So I know you kind of touched on that, Ani.
Filmed, I know, like, so we filmed in and around Albuquerque, like sort of within like an hour radius. We shot a bit in Los Lunas, and we shot in, I mean, yeah, we were mostly around there, and then at the ending, we went to White Sands. And so yeah, we were pretty contained, but that's what was so great about filming in Albuquerque, was that, you know, in a 2-hour span, we could be, you know, in a forest, or we could be by the river, or we could be, you know, in sort of like a more suburban neighborhood. And the range of landscapes was awesome, and settings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really, in addition to the van, in the film, you know, the cinematography is just incredible. So I think we're about to wrap it up, but if there's anything you guys want to say about the film, or before we do.
If you like what you saw, please spread the word. You know, these small independent movies get seen, you know, by people, you know, telling a friend who tells a friend, and it's available on all the platforms. And the DVD is for sale. Also, if you like tangible goods, we also have a, if you go to shorthistorylongroad.com, we have you know, different, you know, hats and t-shirts and stickers for sale. And then we have one shirt that is the poster of the film. And 100% of the proceeds are going to the movement for Black Lives Matters. So we still have a couple of those left. And thank you for watching. This was great.
Yeah, thank you. It was really fun to hear about the film.
We wish we could be
and thank you,
all
Maggie.
together in New Mexico.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, we hope. Yeah, we hope that you shoot your next movie in New Mexico as well. And Jason, do you want to say anything before we?
Yes, I'll say a quick thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here and for making movies here. And my picture is not coming on, but you guys all know what I look like by now after weeks and weeks of Zooms and streams and everything. The living room will be continuing. Oh, and we have one more note from Rosemary who said, what a lovely film and really enjoyed it. So thank you guys again for making such a beautiful film. And we will keep our pledge. We intended on having a big premiere and inviting the crew to show the film upon its release. We were working with the distributor. Of course, COVID wiped that out. But when things return to normal someday, we want to have you guys here and celebrate your incredible achievements. There I am. And watch the film together on the big screen, because it's, in addition to being beautiful emotionally, it's really beautiful to look at. And I feel a little cheated having watched it on the little screen. So thank you to Ani, and thank you to Maggie.
Thank you. Yeah, we will take you up on that. Everybody wear your masks so we can have that happen sooner rather than later.
Great. And everybody have a great night. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Thanks.